So we're talking about a system here that is 10 times richer than most underground mines. That's the opportunity here. And just so you know, that this isn't the exception in the area.
Joining us for a conversation is Shawn Khunkhun, the CEO of StrikePoint Gold. Mr. Khunkhun, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Maurice.
Glad to have you on the program to share the opportunity before us in StrikePoint Gold. Before we delve into company specifics, Mr. Khunkhun, please introduce us to StrikePoint Gold and the opportunity the company presents to shareholders.
StrikePoint is an exploration company advancing high-grade properties in safe jurisdictions. I repurposed the company back in 2016. The gold price had been cut in half, and majors were not exploring, they weren't developing. And the thinking was we could buy projects for pennies on the dollar, we could advance them, and in the future, we could move those projects along to larger entities looking to secure development pipelines.
You know, it's that you have a reputation, I should say, for having an astute business acumen and a great use of optionality on how you establish the company here. Looking at the map before, StrikePoint Gold has the property bank situated in the prolific Golden Triangle. Get us acquainted with the region and some of your neighbors.
Okay, so the Triangle, it's an area that exploration has been going on for over 100 years. It's produced some of the richest gold mines in the world. If you look at the premier mine that Ascot is currently holding, that was one of the richest modern mines in the modern era in terms of number of ounces, in terms of grade. Eskay Creek, a very, very, very strong gold and silver mine. So the area is known for large deposits, high-grade deposits. But more recently, what we've seen with the discovery of Brucejack, which is Pretium, we've seen large companies like Newmont, like Newcrest, have come into the area, and there's just it's a flurry of activity. There's tremendous infrastructure today, so it's one of the hottest mineral exploration hubs in the planet.
Let's go on site and find out more. Sir, take us to the flagship Willoughby Gold Project and introduce us to the value proposition before us.
Okay, so the Willoughby project, what we've got there is we've got a property that was originally explored in the 1989 to 1995-96 time period. So there was an adit driven into the mountain. There was about 120 drill holes, and there were some really, really robust grades that were discovered. 20-gram gold over 20-meter thickness. So a really spectacular, world-class discovery. And at the time, in 1996, the Bre-X scandal happened, and you also had the gold price heading down to just under $200 an ounce in 1999. So it was a very, very difficult time for the mineral resource industry. And the opportunity that we came up with, we acquired the property in 2018, and we see the opportunity in that there's a lot of grade on the project. We are trying to connect the dots in between zones. So that's the value proposition, is linking these zones to show that this is a mineable project.
I referenced business acumen. When and under what terms was StrikePoint Gold able to acquire the Willoughby Gold Project?
It's an interesting story. So back in October of 2018, the gold price got sold down to about $1,100 an ounce, and in that moment, we were able to acquire Willoughby for $85,000 in cash, and by issuing 3 million shares of StrikePoint, which at that time was valued at about $500,000. So considering the amount of drilling that was done on the property, its proximity to Red Mountain, which was subsequently acquired by Ascot, it was really a once in a generation acquisition for the company.
Germane to the value proposition and exploration thesis is an important stratigraphic marker known as the red line. What is the red line, and where is it in relation to the Willoughby Gold Project?
So there was two BCGS geologists, Jeff Kaiba and Joanne Nelson, and as they were looking at this tremendous area that's produced very, very high grade deposits, they were trying to look at a geological model to identify where to look for the next giant gold silver and copper deposits in the region. So Kaiba and Nelson came up with this theory, and it's a theory that has been widely accepted by the scientific community, and it identifies a contact. So the big deposits in the Golden Triangle are found within 2 kilometers of where two different rock types meet. So this is the Triassic Stahini rocks and the Jurassic Hazelton Formation. So where these two different rock types meet, within 2 kilometers of that contact, some of the biggest and most of the deposits in the region are found.
Thus far, we've been able to determine that StrikePoint Gold is in a friendly mining jurisdiction located in the prolific Golden Triangle, neighboring some very prominent names, and the project is along the red line. Two-pronged question, can you delve a little further into the historic resource and share some of the grades with us?
So there isn't a formal 43101 compliant resource on the property, but what you have is you've got about 8 different areas throughout the Willoughby property where there's tremendous grade, and there's been a lot of drilling. So on the back of a napkin, I don't really want to speculate in terms of ounces, but there's what we're looking for here is the neighboring Red Mountain deposit, which is just under 1 million ounces at about 7.5 grams per ton. We think this is analogous to Red Mountain. And if you look at the footprint of the mineralization from surface, it leads us to believe that we're onto a very, very large gold system here. So, this season is going to be crucial. We've done some significant work on the property to date. We've got assays pending, and we're really trying to accomplish 2 things. We are trying to, number one, link different zones of mineralization. And number two, we're actually looking for where you could fit a deposit into the system. And we are drilling some, what I would describe as wildcat holes into areas that, should host a very, very large system. So there's 2 opportunities on the property. One is for a Treaty Creek or KSM style disseminated large system. So, those are 2 systems, one's 40 million ounces of gold, the other's 10 million ounces of gold. These are large disseminated systems. And then the other opportunity is for, a higher grade epithermal vein rich system. So we've seen both types of mineralizations on the property. And if you look at what Ascot's doing in terms of their hub and spoke model, and you've got, in addition to Ascot, Yamana's come into the area, you've got Newmont. So there's a huge appetite from larger gold entities for consolidation and acquisition.
Speaking of wildcat drilling, last month StrikePoint Gold announced the commencement of a 3,000-meter drill program. How's the program coming along, and when can shareholders expect results?
So sure. So I was just up in Stewart. I'm just coming back from a trip up there with our technical advisor, Rob McLeod. The program's going really well. We are blessed, Maurice, with one of the best teams in the exploration business. These are professionals that have worked on a lot of the big projects in the Golden Triangle. We're in the midst. We're about halfway through our planned meters. So we originally came out with a 3,000 meter program at Willoughby. We're halfway through that program. It's going exceptionally well. It's on time. It's on budget, and I would expect assays to start coming in. Again, it's very difficult to speculate on assays because you are dealing with third-party labs. And if 2020 taught me anything, we were, exceptionally delayed in assay times. But I would suspect that we're going to have a very results-rich autumn season, a very result-rich fall after Labor Day, and we should be reporting on going into Q1.
Sounds very intriguing. If you enjoy the value proposition of the Willoughby, wait till you hear about the Porter. Mr. Khunkhun, please introduce us to the Porter Silver Project.
But before I get specifically into Porter, Maurice, I want to tell your viewers, and I want to tell you, and this goes beyond Porter, this goes more to why silver. My last experience in a bull market for gold, when gold prices went from hundreds of dollars up to thousands of dollars into 2011, it was the silver stocks, the silver equities that delivered the best returns for resource investors. So I was very deliberate during this cycle. In 2018, the company acquired Porter. We acquired it from Skeena Resources. I was very deliberate in positioning the company with a high-grade silver property. If you look at the number of pure high-grade silver properties in the world, you could count them on a couple of hands. There's very few opportunities for resource investors in the silver space, and even fewer outside of Chile, Argentina, Mexico, and Peru. So we've got a safe jurisdiction opportunity that we're offering our investors. It's a past producing silver mine. It's one of the highest grade silver mines I've ever come across in my career. The average production grades at Porter were 2,500 grams per ton, but it's the exploration thesis. It's the opportunity. What you have, Maurice, is you have mineralization at either side of Mount Rainy, and Mount Rainy is overlooking the town of Stewart. You can see the Petro-Canada gas station. You can see the deep water seaport going into the Portland Canal. You can see Highway 37A. All the infrastructure's there. We're 2 kilometers from the town, but you've got this high-grade mineralization that's at either side of Mount Rainy. So you've got the Silverado mine on one side. You've got Prosperity Porter, Idaho on the other side. They're separated by about 2 kilometers. And there was a large glacier, the Silverado Glacier, that prohibited exploration in the past. That glacier's pulled back. It's opened up a new exploration corridor. And we believe those two systems are going to meet. And when you have two systems meeting, you usually have exceptional grades. So there's the opportunity there is to link up these two past producing mines by drilling into the center of the mountain. And it's an opportunity that previously was not accessible. It now is, and this is the season that StrikePoint tests that theory. So in addition to stepping out from each of the mines on either side, we've got step outs where we're trying to extend the known high-grade resources and known areas that were once under production. But the real opportunity is a target that we call Big Flex. And that Big Flex opportunity is a series of drill holes right into the center of the system where these two systems should meet. And if we're successful, and if the assays come back anywhere in the neighborhood of where historic production grades were, this is going to it's going to be a transformational year for StrikePoint.
You referenced 2,500 grams per ton on the historical work. That's multiples higher. Let's put that of what you need to go into production. Can you put that into some type of perspective for someone that may not be familiar with silver mining?
Absolutely. So, there's not all deposits are the same. You've got underground mines, you've got open pit mines. So, typically what you'd see at an open pit silver mine is 1 ounce material or 30 gram material. At an underground mine, you're probably closer to 200 grams per ton. So we're talking about, or 8 ounces roughly. So we're talking about a system here that is 10 times richer than most underground mines. That's the opportunity here. And just so you know that this isn't the exception in the area. If you look at some of the giant silver mines in the area, like Eskay Creek, they produced almost 200 million ounces of silver at better than 2,000 grams per ton. So there's a lot of precedent in this area for mines like this. Eskay is one example. At the Premier mine, there was a lot of high-grade silver recovered. At Pretium's Brucejack, there's a lot of high-grade silver that's coming out. And just to the south of us, Dolly Varden silver.
I see that the Porter has a historic resource. Is the goal to twin the holes?
No, the goal is not to twin the holes. The goal is to extend the known veins. So we had while we were drilling the Willoughby property last season in 2020, we sent a team out to do some surface work at Porter. So they were looking to extend the veins at surface. So this is the D vein, the blind vein. This is on the Prosperity Porter, Idaho side. So we were successful. At surface, we have come up with new extensions. We've discovered new veins, And so the goal here is to extend and expand the known veins at both Silverado and Prosperity Port, Idaho. It's to uncover new veins around that. But the big prize here is if we were able to come up with some structure, some mineralization in between those two zones that have never been explored.
You've also been busy doing some field mapping and grab samples. What were the results?
They've been, very elevated, and you're specifically referring to the Porter property.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
So yeah, so up to recently, we've had up to 3,800 grams per ton. But when we first acquired the property, I've actually, I didn't think I was going to do this, but this is a 44,000 gram per ton sample from Porter. This is from the Silverado side. So we've had up to 44,000. And I was actually out there and, I'm in the field, Maurice, and this is what I see. And then we break into the rock and this is what's uncovered. So, this is one of the most exceptional specimens I've ever come across in my career. And so up to 44,000 grams per ton. So that's 20 times the average production grades.
Oh, that's just beautiful. I love that there. All right, sir. Let's discuss some important topics germane to your projects, and that is, are the projects 100% owned?
They are 100% owned, yes.
And what is your relationship with the First Nations?
So there's two First Nations groups in the area, and so south of Treaty Creek, we're in Nishka territory, and so we've got a very very strong relationship with the Nishka Nation. About a third of our workforce comes from Nishka, and everyone from our team has had a long history of just a very, very, very strong relationship there. I've said this before. There are brothers, there are sisters, there are friends. This goes beyond. This is they're truly our partners, and it's not. It goes beyond the Nishka. It's everybody that's close to the Stewart community. So these are non-First Nations, these are non-Indigenous peoples as well. We are truly from the North for the North, and that's our policy.
We've discussed the good. Let's address the bad. What can go wrong, and what are your action plans to mitigate that wrong?
So in 2020, we had one of the worst weather years up in the Golden Triangle that we'd seen in about a decade. And so that's hasn't been the case this year. But last year, if you scanned about 24 junior resource companies and went through their financial statements, what you'd see is some companies were operating at 30% production because of weather. I'm happy to report that at StrikePoint last season, we combated the weather and we were operating at about 95% productivity. So we overcame weather, but weather can be a challenge in this part of the world. Apart from weather, there's we went through the COVID pandemic in terms of more regulations and just a stronger adherence to health and safety. So you're always on high alert in terms of COVID outbreaks. And lastly, just with the scarcity of certain supplies. We started the season, we saw some trends in lumber in late 2020. So we made all of our wood purchases in Q4 of 2020 and in late Q3, and thankfully so, because had we tried to secure lumber in Q1 and Q2, we would have paid twice the price. Now, thankfully, things like lumber and other costs have come down, but there is a shortage of certain goods and items. So sometimes there are some delays, but those are the types of things that can go wrong, Maurice.
Speaking of that adverse weather, last week you were there on site, and the goal was to actually get some footage from you being out there, and the weather would not permit. All right, let's discuss the people responsible for increasing shareholder value. Mr. Khunkhun, please introduce us to your board of directors and management team, and what skill sets do they bring to StrikePoint Gold?
Okay, so we've got a diverse group. If you looked at a skills and experience matrix, We've got a lot of boxes checked here. We've got a mining engineer in Ian Harris. Ian, he was instrumental in the sale of Corriente Resources for about $690 million. We've got an exploration geologist in Adrian Fleming. I don't think we have enough time to go through all of Adrian's successes, but he's just a tremendous mentor to the young geologists that work for the company. So we've got a tremendous mining engineer. We've got a great exploration geologist. Carol Lee, who is the chief financial officer for Ascot Resources, is on the board. So we've got a team, and then beyond the board of directors, we've got advisors like Rob McLeod, Ryan Waymark, myself. To round things out, I come from a marketing and a capital raising background. So we've got all the right elements you need to move a company like StrikePoint forward.
Let's get into some numbers. Please provide us with the capital structure for StrikePoint Gold.
So StrikePoint has about 200 million shares issued and outstanding. You've got Eric Sprott as the largest shareholder at close to 20%. You've got a couple of corporate shareholders in Ascot and Skeena. In terms of institutional ownership, I believe it's around 40%. And you've got tremendous names in the institutional list. You've got firms like Delbrook, Crescat, US Global, Gold 2000, Sprott. So it's all the who's who in the resource fund space.
How much cash and cash equivalents do you have?
So we've got about $10 million in the bank, and we've got about a $4 million budget here. So we should, we should start the year with roughly $6 million. We should start Jan 1st, 2022 with about $6 million after all of our exploration expenditures and spending.
How much debt do you have?
Zero.
And if you can, just remind us one more time, what is the float?
The float. So if you take the 200 million and you X out these, you take out Eric Sprott and you take out some of these institutional owners and the corporates, that leaves about 20% of the float. So roughly 40 million shares.
In closing, sir, what keeps you up at night that we don't know about?
Maurice, when our crew is in the field, they're on my mind. And so I sleep like a baby come December when the crews are off the property. And so that's the one thing that it's just always in the back of my mind. Like, when you go to work with people, you start to, really care about them. And until everybody's gone home to their families at Christmas, it's the one thing in the back of my mind. And it's part of the reason that we make our best efforts to go up and to spend time with our crews. Team morale is important, and like I said, we've got one of the best teams in the field. So just the health and safety of my crew.
Last question: what did I forget to ask?
What did you forget to ask? Well, one of the things that you should know is that I've personally invested about $500,000 into StrikePoint. So I've got a lot of skin in the game. Like for me, that's a material amount of money. And so my interests are aligned with shareholders' interests, my family, my friends. There's a lot more in terms of, reputation and personal skin in the game. So that's one thing I'd like your viewers to know.
Mr. Khunkhun, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Wishing you and StrikePoint Gold the absolute best, sir.
Thanks, Maurice. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
The information presented on Proven and Probable is provided for educational and informational purposes only, without any express or implied warranty of any kind, including warranties of accuracy, completeness, or fitness for any particular purpose. The information is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice, or any other advice. You should not make any financial, investment, or trading decision based on any of the information presented without first undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional broker or competent financial advisor.